Welcome to Empire Building, the podcast where we talk about building big businesses and even bigger lives. I'm your co-host, Seychelle Van Poole.
I'm Via Williams.
And I'm Wendy Papasan. Today we're going to talk about, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite things, but it's the day of the week that I enjoy the most, which is the day that I get to have accountability meetings with my key people. So today we're going to teach you guys how to run a weekly accountability meeting with your key people.
Can I just say, Wendy, that like most people don't say that getting to do accountability with their team is their favorite thing. And so I love that we're starting it out with that conversation because that's awesome.
Yeah. I also want to give Wendy a shout out because I have over the years, and I say years because it's been a long time that she's done this, tried to schedule things with Wendy or have her speak or whatever it is on her, accountability meeting days. And she is steadfast. I mean, she does not waver. Like, she's like, nope, can't do it. I think they're Tuesdays. Are they Tuesdays?
It's actually Monday.
It's Monday. Okay.
But what I love about it is at the end of your day, and I have multiple businesses, so I'm scheduling 4-on-1s with people in my various businesses. And to me, I love ending up at the end of the day on Monday. And it's a tiring day. Don't get me wrong. It's a tiring day. But at the end of the day, I feel like I have the whole picture about what's going on in all of my organizations. And I've had an opportunity to connect with all of them. So it's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Mondays are a great day. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yep. So that's what we're going to learn about today is how to run a weekly accountability meeting with your key people. And the first thing is, we always start with why, which is why is it important to have a weekly accountability meeting? And it's really just two reasons, getting straight on priorities and time with your people.
That's fair.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the other goal, Wendy, when we start diving deep into the meetings is that we need to prioritize and remind our people of what the common goal is and get on the same page of, that our activities have to back up our goals. Our activities have to be there to move the needle forward, right? And sometimes it helps to have another person to help stack the priorities so that we're constantly aware of what we're spending our time on, right? So the goals should be the dictators of your priorities, and your priorities should be the dictator of your actions.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that because at the end of the day, everybody comes up with a plan for the year or the quarter, or however you do your planning. But sometimes if you're not meeting weekly, you think your person that's working for you is doing what they're supposed to do to meet that goal. And then at the end of the quarter, you look up, you turn to them and you say, oh my gosh, you didn't do this, 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 and this. And they were like, well, I didn't even know that I was supposed to do that.
Oh, I have so many examples where that killed us on relationships and on business opportunities. And oftentimes when someone's not winning in a role, but they're a talented person, it's oftentimes because we have not had the regular accountability meeting or the regular weekly goal setting meeting with them where we're just moving literally 1 degree apart. But we each move 1 degree, and you wake up in 6 weeks and you're way across the room and you don't even realize it.
Well, and I think, Seychelle, sometimes the reason for that is that we can be super clear on the goal and our people can spout the goal back to us. Hey, This is my goal. This is the company goal, whatever. But the fact is that priorities are activities that you can put on your calendar. Like you can't put on your calendar, I'm going to win today. What you can put on your calendar is I'm going to dribble the ball 50 times and I'm going to make 150 free throws. That can go on your calendar. But, winning the next game, you can't really put that on. You can put the game on your calendar, but you can't control it. And so we have to constantly be sure that we're coaching and leading our people to attach the action and the activity on their calendar, what their day is like, right, to reach the goal. So I think sometimes we think, well, they're clear about the goal. Like, we're fine. Like, they understand it. I understand it. We're off to the races.
Yeah.
But what the missing link is, and I think what's really key here is, are we doing the right activities? And how do you know if you're not checking in often enough, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yep.
The other thing I would say too with this is that this gives you time with your people, literally getting to know your people on a regular basis. And if we don't have that one-on-one time to understand who they are as a person and help them grow as a person, not just a business person, but like as a whole person, especially in sales, you want to understand what their personal goals are. You know, if someone's planning on being out for maternity for 8 or 12 weeks, or, you know, really wants to go on a trip around the world, or needs to take care of an elderly parent, or whatever that is, that's going to factor in to their annual goals and what their numbers need to look like. And so you have to understand the why behind what their numbers and goals really represent to them, so that you can help them understand what they need to do when they're building out their 411. So, you know, now that we've talked about why do we want to have these weekly accountability meetings, let's talk about what that actually looks like in a 411.
Yes. Well, Seychelle, that's so wise. Yeah, I love that. And if you guys are not coaching people to their personal goals, especially in sales, you know, especially in sales where people are always striving to do more, you need to understand, you need to help them understand why they're working so hard. Because if they don't, it's just too hard. You know, they're gonna get out of there. Okay, so the what of the 411? Well, so the 411 is kind of a Kellerism, and the reason it's called a 411 is because it stands for not only information. For those of you, well, a little fun fact, I don't know if you guys know, but I actually was a 411 operator, which is an information operator back in the days. I know.
Of course you were.
It's so weird. I have so many weird jobs.
Do people nowadays know that before Google that you used to call a number?
I don't think so.
I don't think they do.
You call 411 and then you would get me and I would say, information, this is Wendy. How can I help you? And then I would had this like super fast keyboard.
That's amazing.
You just answer calls all day. Yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing.
Whatever. Such weird jobs. So the 411, aside from being information, stands for 4 weeks, right? So 4 weeks in a month, 1 month, and 1 year. And the setup is you've got your 1 year at the top, which is your annual goals. And then you've got the current month that you're working in. So right now I'm looking at my goals for March. And then underneath there, I've got my 4 weeks, and I'm always looking at the week that I'm in. I'm never plotting. Some people I see, they fill that out and they put everything that they want to do in the 4 weeks, but you really go week by week. And so for me personally, I sit down on Sunday afternoon and I'm looking at my annual goals, and then the goals I know I need to accomplish in March. And then I'm blocking out the activities during the week that's going to allow me to hit those monthly goals. Typically, it's just 1 page. You know, we don't overcomplicate it. You could do it electronically or paper. I'd be curious, you guys, I'm assuming you got electronic versions. Yeah.
Have you not seen my Google Drive version before?
Oh, maybe we could share that in the show notes.
I can put it in the show notes. My Google,
I've got one too.
Google Doc, or Google Sheets, I should say. Yeah,
that's
cool.
What I use
We can
too.
share those in the. Let's share those in the show notes. That'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to.
Yeah, but some people are more tactical, and I think it's I can't remember who it is. One person on my team, they've just got the Remarkable tablet, and they just fill it in tactily every week, which makes sense. When I was doing 411s in person, I would always have the person who was doing the 411 print their 411 out for me and give me a copy of it, because I like to take notes on it every week. And then I would actually keep all those 411s in a folder. And then I would, at the next meeting, I'd reference my notes like, oh, you said last week that you were going to do this, this, and this, and this. And now I do that more on like just a Google document, and I take notes when I'm talking to them. But either way works, whatever works for you.
Well, you know what's funny about that, Wendy? I now most of my meetings are on Zoom, and so I have a running, but it's typed. Like I have a running note list.
Oh, right, I do that too. Yeah. And actually, I kind of prefer the conversation not on Zoom, and more just more of like a phone call, because then
you don't have a remote workforce. That's why.
Yeah. Oh, I do. Yeah, we closed our office down 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Because mine are all over different cities and different areas. Like we're not.
But you could just do it by phone. That's what I'm saying. That's what I do it.
Oh, you could do walk and talks that way.
You could do walk. Well, no, because then I couldn't do it because I want to take notes. But
yeah, that's true. Well, shall we dive into the kind of like deep dives now into each of the sessions? We shall. Let's start with the annual goals. So the annual goals, if you can kind of visualize, I can describe mine. You could have as many annual goals as you want. I think the traditional 411 that I was taught had 3. It had 3 of them, and it was, I'm trying to remember what it was. Wendy, you might remember. It was business, financial, personal. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of the traditional one? That's not what I do. What I do now, I think I'm up to 14 different entities, maybe 15 different entities that I'm involved with. So my first column is my businesses. So just kind of overarching business goals, right? Like, what are the annual goals that I want to hit for that? But then my second column is for my various roles in each of the businesses, which is different because knowing what my business goals are versus knowing what I am responsible for, for me, that's different. So that's my second column. And so my first column is really helpful for me when I'm meeting with my other people. It's a helpful reminder of what the entity's goals are. But the second column is more for me personally. And you can do it however you want. My third column is financial. And then my fourth column is personal, but I call it's personal/health. And of course, health is personal. But for me, there's always it tends to be family, fun, and health for me, kind of in that one, like how many book goals that I'm reading, some personal growth stuff in there. What about you guys? What are your 3 or 4, 5?
Well, so something cool that I did a couple years ago. So I was at the couples goal setting retreat when it was virtual. So I guess in 2020. And we were doing the values exercise. So essentially, I just was revisiting my values. And then I kind of had this aha where I thought, wow, I'm actually going to, so I've always had my values at the top of my 411. So I understand what my values are, and it helps me prioritize. So I can say, awesome. I need to say no to this because it doesn't align with my values. But what I did last year, which was so cool, I actually I took my values and then I put all the things that I'm doing that relate to those values. So like, for instance, leadership is one of my values, and I've got 5 organizations that I lead. And so I have all that, and I have kind of a link to all of the GPSs there. And then adventure is one of my goals. So I've got travel, I've got $5 stuff, I've got my goals around friendships, I've got our retreats, and then just like other things that I'm doing for fun. And then I've got making a difference. That's my third value. And so I've got, one of my goals is to help 100 people become millionaires. I want to donate $100,000 to charity this year. I want to raise $500,000 for charity. We've got our podcast on there, which is my goal for us is 7,500 downloads a week, which we're only at 57. So if you guys could tell
Share
a friend.
with a friend. Please.
Yes, that would be awesome. And then some other things. And then I've got family, health, some goals for different businesses. I've got key relationships that I want to get into, finances, habits. So I have a ton of categories.
Yeah.
And I know, like, anybody that's listening who's just starting out with this, you're probably thinking, geez, there's no way I could do that. The trick is at the beginning. So first of all, as reference, I've been doing the 411 for over 20 years. So I actually was using the 411 in my professional life even before I got to Keller Williams, because Jay showed me how to do it, and I was doing it with my team there. I thought it was such a good system, and just start out really simple. So I love VIAs like job, finances, and personal. Like, just start there. And then I've also got habits, which is another one of mine. So.
Yeah, and then just be sure, if you have multiple business entities, add a column for like to Wendy's point, for business. Yeah. But Wendy, you know what I like about what you're saying, getting an aha that I'm going to do? If you can sit down and, sort of do your goals in each of those 7 circles, like we talk about, it wouldn't hurt to just stare at them, even if you're not going to get like regulated about it. It wouldn't hurt to stare at them. I really like that idea. Every time you're staring at the 411, if nothing else, it'll just prompt your brain every week. Or even every month. Maybe you're like me and you don't do it consistently every week, but gosh, how amazing for me every month to just glance at that. which I'm not really doing. So thank
Yeah.
you for sharing.
Well, and I'll segue us into like, how do you set your monthly goals, right? And what does that need to look like? And there's a great quote in the book, The One Thing, that talks about, like, I'm going to read this directly because I think it's a great quote. And it says, imagine a long string of dominoes lined up one after the other, with one progressively 1.5 times larger than the last. If you were to knock down the first 2-inch domino, you would set off a chain reaction that would, by the 57th iteration, produce enough force to knock over a domino stretching the distance between the Earth and the Moon. And what you're hearing, if you're starting the 411 for the first time right now, or you're 20 years in like Wendy, right? It's that difference between the 2-inch domino and the domino that goes to the moon. And so, we want you to take a step, the first step, right? Which is the 2-inch domino, and just get started and use today to do that. The other thing I would encourage you to take a look at is, Via uses this analogy all the time, so this is a complete shout out to you. The idea of base camps. And when you're climbing Mount Kilimanjaro or you're climbing K2, you go from base camp to base camp to base camp to climb these amazing peaks. You don't go in one day from sea level like Kilimanjaro to the summit, which is up in the clouds, in one day. You go up to base camp 1, you adjust, you acclimate. You go to base camp 2, you adjust, and you acclimate. And so when we're looking at monthly goals, these are a series of some good questions that you can be asking to help you map out what your monthly goals need to look like to build up to your annual goal. The first thing you could ask yourself, Via, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and every time you get, base camp is the bottom, and then every
right.
other ones are based, like there's camp 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
By the time you get to camp 2 or 3, so maybe you're in August, you see differently, you've experienced differently.
Yeah.
You know what you need to do in September, but you didn't know what you needed to do in September in January. So part of
That's
it is
right.
your vantage point has gotten higher. You've progressed down the path more, and so you see things differently. You didn't know what you didn't know. Mm-hmm. So to Wendy's point earlier, like, you just want to be careful that you're not pre-populating these, because
right.
you might think it's okay to give yourself hints and milestones. I do that, Wendy, by the way, on my weeks and my months. I'll be like, hey, reminder, you should be on book 3 this week, or you should be on whatever. It's just a good guidepost for me.
Checkpoint. Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I'm not.
How do you? Can I ask? How do you
mine's
give
on
yourself those hints? Are they on
my
reminders
Google
on your
sheet.
phone?
It's on my Google sheet. So I do pre-populate when I'm doing my monthly on my Google sheet. I'll go, okay, I want to get out 2 books this month. So I'll put a prompt on week 3. Hey, start book 2. You should be starting book 2.
I do that with my goal is to have 2,000 miles logged this year. And so to do that, I break it down by how many miles. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then it is what it is, right? Like, you'll go in and you'll still put it in, since we're on monthly right now, like, you'll still put it in for the month, but the prompts are helpful. They help me, just gives me a good milestone.
Yeah. Well, and I think when you're asking these questions to set those milestones, some questions that you could ask would be like, what does extraordinary look like in my life, in my business, in my health, and, in my adventure, whatever it is, right? And where would I need to be by the end of the year for next year to be on track for extraordinary? Then you could say, well, what would I have to do every month to get there by the end of the year? And then you can say, okay, well, now that I know every month, then what would I have to do every week this month to achieve this month? And that's how you start figuring out what your camps and your summits look like. And Via said it beautifully, but if you map it out and then check and adjust monthly, you're ahead of the curve, because you can react, or proactively, even better, right? Proactively adapt and change depending on what's happening. And I love, this is Via's philosophy. I think it's one that all 3 of us on here, and I think Sarah probably uses it too, which is, the philosophy of front loading everything during your week, your month, your year. Like, all of my accountability meetings are on Mondays. All of my team generated meetings are on Tuesdays. Wednesday, Thursday, like, we record our podcast Fridays, because it's almost like Fun Friday. We get to spend time together.
Friday.
Fun Friday. Friday.
Like, yes, it is.
I mean, that out loud.
How many?
I refuse to be a Friday person.
Well, you just self-proclaimed
I am
it.
the
I love
hype
it.
man, though. So
you
what can
are
I
the
say?
hype man. But I mean, how many times How many times during the pandemic would we say like Friday is like our fun day? That's our day where we got to start.
I still look at it and think,
yes, we got to start recording together.
Yay.
But it was because we had front loaded the rest of the week. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to be here and be present and providing back to you guys, because we front loaded everything that we needed to get done at the beginning of the week, so we don't feel guilt when we get to spend time together and share with you guys to make that happen.
I love that. Well, and it's really about having a relationship with your goals. Okay, so the reason that most people don't succeed
one of my favorite
in life,
Wendy quotes of all time. Say it again, because it's a mic drop.
About
Wendy.
having
It's so
a relation. The 411 is about having a relation, and that's why I love Mondays. Right? It's not about it's not like I like to go in and like crack the whip to my people, because people that know me, I'm not really a whip cracker, but it's about checking in with someone about their goals, both personal and professional. And honestly, guys, this is how you move forward in your life. And when you, like when you said, I've been doing the 411 for 20 years, when I heard you say that out loud, I thought, geez, wow, I am old. But
your 411 is in college right now. I just need you to know that.
It's almost drinking age. Yes,
More or less
but it's really
productive when you hit
true.
21.
And when I think about how I've moved my life forward bit by bit, it's kind of amazing just to look back and be like, wow, here's where I was, here is where I was, here is where I was. And then all of a sudden you look up and you have more success than you've ever imagined, right? Your life is better than you
the
ever
days
thought
are
it could
long, the
be.
years are short. We say it all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Something just popped up on Facebook, and it was my first wealth building class that I taught 5 years ago.
Wow.
And it's amazing how you can go and a shout out to Perry Hirth, who's a team leader. He's an agent now in the Minneapolis area. He encouraged me to do that. He said, I'd love for you to come and speak on wealth building. And I thought, what? That is so scary. So I wrote this whole class. I didn't know what I was doing. And here I am 5 years later. And we just taught a high level class, Her Rich Life, for this other organization that we're in, Her Best Life. So anyway, it's about having a relationship with your goals, and this is how you can do more than you've ever dreamed possible in 5 years or less.
That's right.
And it really starts with the tactics for the weekly. So we talked about the annual, we talked about the monthly, and then it's really like, what are the actions that you can do to push everything forward during the week? And this morning on our team huddle, we had a conversation about what you can control and what you can't control, because we just had a tough week on our real estate team. Deals were falling out. We had cranky clients who were calling. One of our top agents was out of town. It was just a really hard week on our team, and so we talked about what you can control and what you can't control, and you want to put the things that you can control, which is basically how you spend your time, on your weekly 411, right? And so what I do is I sit down every single Sunday. If it's a regular week, I spend probably 15 to 30 minutes on it, and I'm looking at my monthly goals, and I'm saying, what do I need to, and honestly, I'm pulling out my calendar, and I'm seeing how full my calendar already is, because when you're an empire builder, often your week is already pretty full. And then I'm thinking, what can I do that's extra, right? Or I'm just actually putting some of the things down that I already know I'm going to have to do that week. And then on the weeks where I'm doing the month, I'm sitting down for more like an hour. Right? So I'm sitting down for an hour. I'm looking at my whole calendar for the month. I'm going through it week by week, so I know exactly when I'm going to be gone, the days I'm out, the kids stuff that stuff I've got planned with Jay and my husband. And then based on that, I'm planning my week. And it's just full of tactical things. So it's like, and this is just awesome. Just so important. A Wharton professor, Catherine Milkman, found it striking, something striking about New Year's resolutions, and she said, at the beginning of a new year, we feel like we have a clean slate. It's the fresh start effect, and you guys can do this literally every week with your 411. Yeah. You can do that.
There's a lot of research that you can choose any day, like a Monday. It's why when I used to sell radio advertising, for an interim period, kind of in between college and getting into real estate. And it's more expensive as you get later in the week. So advertising spots on the radio Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that's retail advertising, right? Because people tend to go out in the weekend. So restaurants, retail stores. So you're always stuck with trying to sell Monday and Tuesday spots when you're in radio, right? Guess who those all went to? They went to athletic clubs and diet centers and all the things, because they are the most popular time for people to make those calls and make those decisions. And so Mondays and Tuesdays, I would just start I targeted I had dietitians, that I sold radio spots to and whatever, because any Monday, you can choose a Monday to start. You can choose a first of the month, first of the quarter, make your choice on that, Before we pop into that, I'm going to go into the daily now, because we started with year and then monthly and then this was weekly. I know we don't want to pre-populate, and I do want to emphasize something we shared earlier, which is that I do often sort of map out targets for myself. And again, because I do it electronically, it's probably a benefit of that. Yeah. I'll put in pace marks for myself where I'm like, all right, I wanted to have lost, 1 pound by week 2 and, or week rather, sorry, I did my math wrong. But anyway, whatever it is, or I wanted to lose X amount of pounds. But if I wanted to lose 8 pounds that month, I want, hey, check to see if you're on track for 4 down this week. And, you're almost through your first book, or you're on to your second already and stuff. So I don't think there's anything wrong with making notes, but you do need to be able to start with a clean slate and give yourself time to recreate that.
Well, what I do is actually on my annual goals, I keep track of my annual goals, and I do, so for instance, if our goal is to give $100,000 away to charity this year, I've got in parentheses behind it, I have 7,000 of 100 that we've given away this year.
Oh, I like that.
And then I actually have it linked, because it's in Google Sheets, to our charitable donation tracking that we're doing.
Oh my gosh, why aren't I linking more? That is so smart.
Oh, mine are all linked. I'll show you mine.
Oh, I love that.
It's so great.
That's
it's
great.
link. And then it makes everything easier. Yeah.
Okay, why aren't I linking?
Brilliant. Oh, I love that. That's brilliant.
I learned that's massive.
Thank you. Yeah,
so
we're both taking that.
Oh my gosh.
I love that.
What?
That's brilliant.
Why haven't I been doing that? It's on Google Sheets. Sometimes you just get so myopic. You just need to,
of course.
Well,
you can do it the same
we're so used to paper, you get used to doing it one way on paper, and then you go to electronic, and you forget that there's all these hacks that you can use. That's awesome.
Our podcast link, I have it, for my podcast goal, I have it linked to that, Chartable thing that shows our things. So that's the first thing I do, is I update all my annual goals when I'm sitting down doing my weekly 411. And so I'm like, oh, where are we at with the podcast? So every week I'm just checking out all those big things, and I just click and link, and then look, and then click and link.
Mind blown. I mean, and it's so simple.
So simple. It's simple. It's not easy.
Your money's worth
not
today,
always easy,
guys.
but it's simple.
Got your money's worth.
Because it's so much money that we're making on this podcast.
I know. I can't believe we got a raise finally.
I know.
From nothing to nothing.
Are we going to each mail ourselves $1?
Okay, if you guys are
Wendy,
listening,
you got a raise. I'm going to pay you $10 for this.
If you're
We're looking for sponsors.
If you know of a good
sponsor us.
Google Sheets. Remarkable. If you would like to sponsor us, we have a lot of
people shout outs.
I know. We really do. We really do. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so shall we move to the daily? Are we ready for the daily? Because I have a confession to make. I always feel like I'm the delinquent that just comes right out of there and shares the fails. I am the queen of failure. It's such a great mantle to wear. So I have really struggled with daily planning. I think that if you were going to do a deep dive business assessment on me, I think Tony Robbins does this. I might be considered what Tony Robbins considers an artist. It's hard for me to be disciplined. All this discipline that we talk about a lot that I do, it's hard for me. This does not come naturally. So if any of you guys are listening who you're I'm just not naturally wired that way, either am I. So just want to give you a shout out.
Did you say that Tony Robbins considers you an artist?
No, he has those different business classifications.
Formerly known as
I think I'm either an activator or an artist or something. I can't remember what it was, but it whatever it was, I remember it being validating that it was going to be a struggle for
sure.
me.
You're an activator.
Yeah, that's my number. Yeah, that's my number one. But for sure, it was going to be a struggle for me to sort of be consistent on a regimented thing.
Well, and what I do is I use my Panda planner. So that's my daily. I don't use my 411 for that. So I have a totally different system.
Well, that's what I was going to confess, Wendy. So
Yeah.
I struggled with that, right? So I, my business partner who who holds me accountable, his name's Ben Kinney, and I confess.
Oh, is that
to
who
him.
it is?
Well, people here, maybe the listeners don't know
Hi,
that.
Ben.
I don't know. You guys know, but I don't know that they know. So, I was confessing with him very recently. Like we're talking like today's, it was like 2 weeks ago because it was the beginning of the month. And I go, Ben, I'm not doing my daily planning and I'm getting overwhelmed. I have 14 entities. I'm overwhelmed. Like, so, will you hold me? Now, when I ask Ben to hold me accountable, it is serious. That is I can't think of the last time I asked him to hold me accountable, right?
Yeah.
It's like, asking your boss to hold you accountable. That's serious stuff, right? I go, will you hold me accountable to doing a daily plan? So we went through his plan and I was going to share it with you. Now, this is a night before plan and it has been extraordinarily hard. It is the 11th of the month and I've completely failed on this plan. I'm just being totally transparent, but I'm starting to feel that, okay, I need to do something. What is it before I go home? Oh yeah, that. I'm starting to move into that, like, if I haven't done it, I'm starting to feel it, which is a good start, right?
That is good.
So it's,
it's at the end of the,
it's at the end of the day. So actually,
End
no,
of the day. Okay.
I like where you're going with your question. I
Yeah.
think it's a valid question because I asked Ben the same thing. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
do I do this at like 9 at night when I'm in
Right,
bed? Do I?
right.
No, I have chosen to try to do it before I leave the office because the nights that I didn't do it were the nights I didn't do it because I got home and I just wanted to be home.
Of
Yeah.
course.
And-
Well, that
and
makes
chill.
sense.
Yeah, and that's not
Yeah.
So-
That's how it should be.
I put it on my calendar at 5:30 and that's part of I just need to work this out because I'm still in meetings sometimes at 5:30. So I'm trying to just figure it out for myself, like when I do it. But I might try to set a reminder. I don't know. I have to figure it out. I might start sending reminders for myself. But here's what it is. It's very simple. Number one, visualize tomorrow and what you want to accomplish. Now, I have to say, this has been wonderful. I have pulled out my 411 and I've reviewed every day now. I'm reviewing, my goals because of this. So I'm like, okay, what do I want to accomplish? I pull out number 2, see what your calendar has on it. So I look at, I visualize my schedule. Cancel anything not important. It's hard to do. Ladies, do it. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to do, but if it's too full, there's not enough white space, and we've talked about this on the podcast, getting used to building in white space. You feel like I'm not busy, like it's not scheduled out enough. I'm not busy enough.
Can I say something about
Yeah.
that? Like one
Yeah.
of the best things for me about getting a personal assistant was it all of a sudden gave me total freedom for that kind of thing, which is like, you know what, something else has come up or I'm looking at my day, it's too full. Whereas before when I knew that I was going to have to do all the rescheduling and everything, I just never did it. It was just way too
such a
stressful.
good addition.
Yeah.
I'm on the path of getting a personal
Yeah.
assistant. Thank you, Wendy. Very good advice. So look at number 2. See your calendar has on it. What your calendar has on it. Cancel what's important. Number 3, make a list of your priorities and put them in the right order. So often, you already have them, because you've done, say, your weekly, because we're on daily right now. But you still have daily priorities. And so I have been doing this. I have been making a list of my priorities. I make it a point. There should probably be no more than 2, maybe 3 in a 1 day period. Really there's 1. It's like I sort of ask myself, okay, tomorrow, what's the most important thing I need to accomplish? Now, in there is often 2 or 3. But no, I wouldn't do any more than that. Number 4, plan what you're going to do for your rituals. So in advance, this is the hardest one, guys. Water, food, breaks, learning, movement, and exercise.
Ooh.
Failing forward every day, folks. Number 5, create your time blocks and then set alarms for the rituals. So every 90 to 120 minutes, if there is not a break or white space for you to stand up, walk around, drink water, even if you're going to slip in a walk and talk, but some kind of a break, I am failing forward on that one. I'm not going to lie. Number 6, sleep well, knowing you have a plan.
Well, and do you know why? because you are so good at not taking breaks. Like if
I know.
like most people
It's a
literally
superpower.
can't do what you do, and it is like you're very good at it, and that's why you're not doing it, because you have the ability to do it. But it doesn't mean it's not catching up with you.
Yeah, it's true. And we're not going to have like a via therapy session, but my
We could.
we could. It'd be a good episode. It'd be juicy. What I will say about that, I was just literally, thinking about it this morning, that pros and cons of being via. The pros are that I am highly effective and I get a lot done. The cons are I will work until I collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah.
And so I have to Wendy's point, force myself, like, because I don't feel like I need it in the moment, but it does catch up with me. So if any of you are resonating with this like little vulnerability of mine right now, then, so I'm working on that. I'm not going to pretend like I'm perfect, but the sixth one is sleep well, knowing you have a plan, wake up and review 1 to 6, and then start the day with hydration, eating right, moving, and learning something. So I've started to read or do a journey. I just got the Untethered Soul journal from my friend Veronica. And so like, we're doing my best. I don't want to pretend like I'm perfect, but I think that's a really good daily plan that works really well.
That's awesome.
Because it's not on the 411 per se.
No, it's
like
not on the 411.
daily,
And I use a Panda planner for that. And it pretty much has a lot, very, very much the same categories, except it has like, you start your day with it, and you've got 3 things that you're grateful for. You've got your habits, which for me, it's always water and vitamins. It's got your one focus for the day. There's affirmation, spot for affirmation. It has your schedule, and then it has your priorities, and then it has your wins at the bottom. And for me, that is great because I just fill that in every day. And of course, I'm always looking at my schedule, but like writing it down seems to like make it stick in my head more. And so whatever works for you. And if you are in the real estate space, it's a lot harder to have control over your day because you've got people wanting your attention all day long. So I know a lot of our listeners, they're listening to what we say and they're like, well, I could never do that. And I remember that. We were all there at one point where you're kind of ping-ponging from thing to thing, and you've got to take a phone call and it interrupts you. And you have a lot more control than you think over your day. There's
honestly,
nothing in real estate. It's, no refugees will die if you wait until 5:30 to call people back.
And Seychelle, just really quick, but to add on, I just want to kind of add on to that. Any of you who are employees, if you're working for someone else and you're telling yourself you don't have control, I can assure you your leader wants you to be effective and get your job done. And if it takes breaks every 90 or 120 minutes to walk and to drink water, even if you're still doing your job, but you're walking around the block outside, you probably have more control than you think because it's going to make you better. So don't assume that your boss doesn't want you to do that. As long as you're probably going to be more effective. All right, sorry, Say.
No, I love that. I was building on what you were going to say, which is if you're clear on your goals and your team knows that you're clear on your goals, it's probably not as likely that they're going to micromanage every minute of your day or the time that you're spending. At least I know that's the kind of leader I am. I'm like, if we're moving forward and you're in charge and you're going and we're clear on what's happening, I actually don't really care what your day looks like. But if you're not, that's when I care a lot. Let's talk about your calendar as far as what are some of the most, this for me is the opportunity for the biggest failure, but also the biggest opportunity. And that is, we've talked a lot about what the business looks like and your health, but we haven't talked about some of the big rocks that we need to make sure are in there first. And so when you're looking at your year as a whole and you're planning it out, what you want to make sure are represented on your calendar first is your fun, and your relationships and the events that you have coming up. And so just make sure as you're looking ahead, you really want to know what your work life has to fit into. And so if you're planning on taking 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks of vacation, you have a couple conferences, you have athletics, whatever it is you need to be doing, life events, weddings you need to attend, go ahead and make sure those are represented on the calendar so that you actually may not have 365 days to work this year. You might actually only have, if you count weekends, 240, or you might only have 300. And so you really want to get clear on how many days during the year you actually have that you're working versus how many days are actually in the year. So that way you can be as effective as possible with them.
Guys, this was so juicy today. And
really
and in fact, we were planning on really doing a deep dive into how to actually hold a 411. But this was so juicy, we just couldn't stop talking about it. So what we decided is this is going to be a 2-part series. So stay tuned on Wednesday of this week. We're going to be dropping part 2, which is really the tactical part of how to really do a 411 with somebody on your team. So, gosh, guys, we learned so much today. We learned all about the 411, the importance of annual goals and priorities, how to time block, what a 411 looks like, how some of us prioritize based on our values. The personal side of priorities is so important. We talked about time blocking your priorities in your calendar. I mean, all the things. So thank you so much for joining us today. I want you guys to go out and build a big business and even bigger life. And make sure you tune in on Wednesday for part 2 of our weekly accountability meeting. Thanks, guys.
Bye.